هاي، أهلا وسهلا فيكم. فضحنا شوي لأبونا هلأ مع العلاقة، بس أنا هون مش لأني بنتها لدكتور ماري خوري. أنا هون لأنه communication و positive communication هو موضوع تخصصت فيه، وموضوع كتير بيعني لي، وأنا كتير مبسوطة أن أكون هون معكم اليوم عم بحكيكم عن الكوميونيكيشن، وبالأخص البوزيتيف كوميونيكيشن، وكيف فيكم تستعملوا البوزيتيف كوميونيكيشن بحياتكم اليومية، بكرة حياتكم المهنية كمان، حياتكم الشخصية، حياتكم الجامعية، تقدروا تحسنوا العلاقات اللي عندكم إياها بين بعضكم، مع أصحابكم، مع أهلكم، مع أساتذتكم، بكرة مع الأشخاص اللي رح تشتغلوا معهم، أو بركي الموظفين اللي أنتم رح توظفوه وقت أنتم تطلقوا شركتكم. خليني أخبركم شوي عن حالي قبل ما بلش أعرض الموضوع positive communication. أنا my background is a bit mixed up. So I started off with a scientific master's. I have a master's in molecular biology of cancer. Okay, nothing to do with all this. But my call for the human side and the communication kind of like appealed to me. So after working for a couple of years, I traveled to France and I pursued a master's in corporate communication and change management. And after that master's, I have been working in the consultancy and training field, mainly around interpersonal skills, but also process optimization, strategic thinking, accompanying customers to help them improve their performances inside their organization, their organizational structures as well, and to provide better outcomes, better services for their clients, their customers. And of course, a better engagement for their own employees as well. So I've been doing this for the past, for the past 13 years. Okay? I've been doing these kinds of trainings, workshops around various topics. Currently, I am the Learning and Development Manager of a company that specializes in consultancy and training for HR. I'm also a teacher at university, and I supervise students in their master's thesis. I am a PhD candidate, hopefully was supposed to be done with it in Feb, but well, circumstances haven't allowed me to do that, so I'll probably be graduating June, hopefully. All right, so you're all here today because you are addicted to the series of well-being, and I'm absolutely amazed. And the day I was approached about giving this presentation, I did not hesitate a second, because I'm really proud of an organization that believes that investing time and effort into mental health always brings return on investment, a tremendous return on investment in the quality of the relations that you build, in the quality of life, and the quality of the services that you can provide and offer and, in the organization. So I didn't hesitate a second. The outline of the talk today is going to tackle three main points. We are going to talk about your intrapersonal communication. We are going to tackle tools and the approach of positive communication first, before we get into the tools that can support you improve your positive communication and use positive communication for healthier relationships. Now, I'm pretty sure I can bet safe money on the fact that all of you here in this room have had a relationship where things went down the hill. So it was a good relationship until there was some sort of issue, a problem, a miscommunication, and it went downhill. Am I right? Anyone has never, ever, ever had a communication issue with a partner, with a sibling, with a teacher? Yeah? No? True? Yes, all of you? Okay. So if we really want to understand how we can have more positive communication with people around us, with other people, if we want to learn how to improve our relationships with other people, there is one mandatory stop that we have to make, and that is our intrapersonal talks, or the way we talk to ourselves. So before we learn how to improve the way we talk with other people, we need to think, take a moment and think about the way we talk to ourselves. Any of you talks to him or herself? Yeah? Don't be shy. Yes, we all do. We actually all do talk to ourselves. It could be, in the supermarket, looking at the shelves. What am I going to take? Shall I take this product or maybe that one? Oh, let me try this. It looks cool. It could be coming up for, I don't know, an exam. You have an exam and you're walking into the room and you're thinking to yourselves, have I studied enough? What's it going to be like? Do you think you're ready? We always, constantly have discussions with ourselves. Because there are 3 levels of communication. There are intrapersonal talks before we start talking with others, and that's interpersonal talks. And of course, group conversations, this is when we have multi-parties that are actually interacting and contributing to the conversation. So I'm going to ask you this about intrapersonal talks. What do they usually sound like? Who can tell me, who would like to share with us, what does your intrapersonal talk sound like? How do you talk to yourselves, usually? What's the most common thing you tell yourself? You're very comfortable? This is what you tell yourself? Great, lovely. Who has another? Who would like to share something else? Yes? So you talk to yourself to boost your own confidence? Okay, great. How do you guys talk to yourselves? Boys, we've had 2 ladies volunteering. No? How do you talk to yourself? What do you tell yourselves? When you wake up in the morning, you're looking at yourself in the mirror, or you're trying up, in the shop, you're trying up a new pants, and you're like, I look fat in these pants. Right? We talk to ourselves sometimes in a way that's not very comfortable and that doesn't always bring us confidence. So let's take a look at our self-awareness first. There was a study that was published back in 2015 that tried to analyze the amount of thoughts that our brain is capable of processing per day. Do you have an idea of the number of thoughts that run up through your brain in a day? 50,000? Around 80,000? So this particular study showed that it was indeed around 70,000 thoughts. Out of these 70,000 thoughts that go through your mind, what is the percent that are negative? Ooh, good students. I see. I'm happy, very happy to be bouncing on something that you've already acquired. So that's quite close. This study particularly showed that 80% of those thoughts were negative. What probably was not, yes?
What do you mean by negative?
Negative thoughts are thoughts that might either bring up negative memories, talk about negative facts, or bring up negative emotions, and can lead eventually to negative reactions, negative behaviors. Did you know that 95% of those negative thoughts are actually repetitive negative thoughts? So these are the same negative thoughts that you've had about yourself, about others, about a situation, about the future, about the past, that keep on coming in your mind every single day. Taking up all the CPU power, all this brain power that you have, this is being taken up by those repetitive negative thoughts. They turn into habits. They turn into habits. And we start developing more and more these habits whenever the circumstances around us are also not very helpful. And we have to admit, we are going through a rough patch. Worldwide, not only in Lebanon, but more particularly in Lebanon. We're going through quite some rough times. So what happens is that we start having those repetitive thoughts, negative thoughts, that often become habits. They become our worries. These are our daily worries. And the percent of worries that actually never happen, so those repetitive thoughts that we keep on worrying about, do you know how many of those actually never happen? So that's around 85%. تخيلوا. You are worrying 85% of the time. You are worrying about something that's not going to happen, that is not going to become true. Very simple example. I am going to fail this exam. هلا رح تقولوا لي this is not very true because sometimes we do. Yeah? I hope it's not more than this 15%. Okay? So which means, تنعمل لكم شوية math. How much are left? How much of the worries that we actually worry about do happen? 25? Out of the 85% that never happen, we have 15% that do happen. Out of those worries that actually do happen, you have around 79% of them that turned out not as bad as you had worried about. So even those 15% that do happen, you just get through it. And you handle them. And you get through and you get by and you survive. And more often than not, you become stronger because you learn how to face those. What does this all tell you? This seems a bit off topic. Why is this important? Why is this relevant?
Because our minds might be helpful or might be damaging because of how we use them.
I like this. Our minds are tools that can either help us or can hinder us. They either can support us in building healthy relationships, or they can play tricks on us and make us fail at those relationships. Not because in reality those relationships are not working, just because we are speculating that we are going to mess up those relationships. It's a French philosopher, okay, who said, this is my translation, okay? So my life has been filled with tragedies, and most of them have never happened. Read that again. My life has been filled with tragedies. Most of them have never happened. We've all experienced the earthquake, tremors and, right? Any of you did not go through that? Was lucky enough to be sleeping all the time during those, lucky you. So for those of you who have experienced it, you probably felt, I don't know, you tell me, how did you feel? Scared? Yeah? What did you feel? What did you experience? You were excited. Yes, you were aroused, of course, because of the whole uncertainty of what's going on. Yes. You felt it in your body, right? You felt like you were just like dizzy, maybe? I don't know, for a lot of people, it felt like something was happening to them. They didn't think it was something happening in the environment. They thought they were having an episode or something. Okay? So when that earthquake happened and we experienced it, all of the negative thoughts that we had in our mind were something in the lines of, I'm going to die, we're going to get hurt, my house is going to break down, right? Luckily for us, in Lebanon, none of that have happened. We're all here in this room, still breathing, still living. This is an example, very simple example, of a moment where we felt like we were just at the edge of dying, and we actually didn't. What's amazing about our mind is that it's a very powerful tool. It can either help you experience life with more joy and more happiness, and to be honest, life is not worth it if you're not happy and joyful, or it can bring you down, limit you, and not allow you to fulfill your full potential. So how are those self-talk going to help us improve our relationships and render ourselves happier on a daily basis. Let's do a small exercise together. I would like you to take a look at those statements on the left, and we're going to do the exercise together, okay? We're going to try and match them with positive self-talk to replace the usual self-talk that we get in this condition or in this scenario. Let's take the first one. You have a presentation in front of the whole class. You hate public speaking, and this is something that keeps you up at night, even though you're very well prepared. You've done your homework, you've prepared, your slides are neat, you know your text, you know everything. You're coming in class, your heart is pounding, your hands are sweaty, you can't even swallow, and you're just super nervous. What are the kind of thoughts that come to your mind? What's the kind of self-talk that usually come to our mind? I'm not going to make it. I'm going to forget what I prepared, right? What else? Sure. Share. So we have the papers and we just you start ruffling with the paper and you just don't know where to start. What else? They're going to make fun of me. I'm going to be ridiculed. All right, so this is the kind of self-talk that usually happens when we're nervous before a presentation. What do you think, from those statements on the right, what do you think you can tell yourself to switch your self-talks from negative to positive? Great. I have rehearsed. I've done my homework. I did everything I could have done to be ready for this presentation, and I am going to try and do my best. Come what may, I'll try and do my best. This is the kind of self-talk that you can introduce. Pretty sure she already told you that as well. Dr. Khoury has already mentioned this in her previous presentations. Those negative thoughts, they come in automatically, right? So automatically, these are the first thoughts that come to your mind. Because, well, our brain is wired that way. It's not only because it's habits. Okay, but in reality, our brain is wired, and our survival as a human race was possible because our brain is capable of noticing negative danger so that we can avoid it, obviously. So our brain is wired that way. We are used to looking at the negative and focusing on the negative. To be able to move past that, we have to proactively, even if it sounds forced, even if it sounds sometimes fake. They say, fake it till you make it. Yeah, well, fake it till you make it. So tell yourself, yes, I have rehearsed as much as I could, and I'm going to give it my best shot. Let's take a look at the second one. So you're reluctant to try an activity for the first time. All your friends are like, hey, let's go bungee jumping. Like, ooh, not my cup of tea. So what usually do you tell yourselves in these situations? You really don't want to go bungee jumping. What do you tell yourself? So this is usually the positive self-talk that you want to encourage yourself. Yes, you do. Let me give it a try. Yes. But usually, the thoughts that come to your mind are like, if I try, I'm going to fail. And they're going to laugh at me and ridicule me. I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to know how to do that. I'm a failure. أصلاً أنا فاشلة وما بعرف أعمل هيدول الأشياء. حياتي ما زبطت معي. Right? Also, negative thoughts. So which statement do you think we can use in this situation? Very good. So this is a learning opportunity. Everything is a learning opportunity. Even the worst situations that you go through can be a learning opportunity depending on how you choose to live them and experience them. Third one. So you wake up in the morning. We've all had one of those. Nothing works. Your hair looks terrible. You look all puffy. You hate your reflection in the mirror. And there goes all the body shaming. Yeah, I see the laughs. I know, it's all, I know. We've all had those. So we have this negative self-talk again. Ugh, you look ugly. Oh, you look fat. Ugh, this hair, I hate my hair. right? Negative self-talk again. What can I tell myself? True, I am having a bad day. And that's هيدي الfollow-up تبعها. So I am having a bad day. But I'm grateful because I'm awake. You've all heard stories of people who went to sleep and never woke up again. Absolutely true. Even more so today. We've all heard of people whose life just ended at a moment where they weren't expecting it. I don't want to sound too pessimistic, but any of us could go to sleep tonight and not wake up tomorrow. So just the fact of waking up is enough to be grateful. You're going to say, well, hey, okay, but no. Really? Does it really, really work? Well, you won't know until you try it. Fake it till you make it is not just a saying. It's a way of tricking your brain. I told you your brain is wired in a way to think negatively. These kinds of exercises force your brain, you trick your brain, you play games on your brain to convince your brain that you're happy, and your brain rewires into thinking positively. And obviously that last situation where your teacher gives you your exam or your report and you didn't do so well. And you're like, I failed, I'm a failure, I'm never gonna make it, you know? And all the series, obviously. But the alternative is to say, where are my mistakes? I want to fix them. I want to learn from what I've done wrong. Before I move on to the next section, I want you to remember this very nice also exercise on the brain, usually about the brain. So the exercise says that usually you cannot force your brain not to do something. All right? So you cannot ask your brain not to think that you look ugly in a mirror or you're a failure. So if I tell you, all of you now, don't think of a cat. You're all thinking of a nice little orange, maybe black or white cat, yeah? You're all having mental pictures of this cat. Because you cannot tell your brain, don't do this. But what you can do is proactively push your brain to think about positive things. And it starts by voluntarily, consciously saying, I want to be nice to myself. I want to practice some self-care, some self-love. And there's nothing wrong in just giving yourself some nice compliments, looking at yourself in the mirror. Okay, true, I don't look thin, but I look strong and I like it. Okay, after the self-talk comes the action. So the positive self-talk and then the positive actions. Positive actions can be exercising, could be reading a book, listening to music, anything that brings you positive emotions. And this is also going to support you in your positive state of mind. Good. Now moving on to positive communication. Why is positive communication important, and what do we mean by positive communication? Let's take a look at that communication process first. What does it take to have communication? People, okay. How many? At least two. If we're talking about interpersonal here, at least two parties. So we need a sender and a receiver. Great. What do we also need? The message. Very good. This is the basic mechanic process of communication. I have a sender that sends a message to a receiver. Okay. Does it often look like this? Often it does. Often it does. Because sometimes the sender doesn't really care if you're receiving the message or not. They're just throwing their message at your face. They say negative things. Or maybe if it's you're working and it's your manager and they're using, slang language or technical words that you don't even understand. This is how it feels. They're just throwing information at you. They're not communicating with you. This is throwing information, and this is not what we're looking for in communication. Communication between two adults that are really looking for the same common purpose that is the success of the relationship and an outcome at the end of the day, it should look more like a game of catch. So like I throw the ball at you, but then the essential element in communication, and this is why it's called communication, not information, it's that the assumption that you are going to throw the ball back at me. Because when I'm communicating, I don't communicate for the sake of communicating. I communicate because I have a purpose, because I'm looking for feedback. It could either be a response, or it could be an action, or it could be a thought, or it could be a feeling. I am looking for something through my communication. I'm looking for this feedback. And this communication is only possible when you close the loop, when the sender sends it to the receiver and the receiver loops it back as a feedback. Now the tricky part in communication, it looks rather easy, right? I'll throw you a ball, you throw it back. Easy, no? Why does it mess up so often? Why does it go wrong so often? So you assume things about what the other person is telling you. Let me ask you this. Have you ever tried to fix a conflict with a friend or a sibling or a parent over WhatsApp? Does it ever work? Usually it gets worse, right? Because they send you like, you're in a fight, okay, with them, and they send you bonjour. You're like, bonjour, bonjour, right? So this is where it goes. This is how it just escalates. Okay. What you should know, and the tricky part, and exactly relating to what you are saying, is that in reality, we're not playing catch with a ball. We're more like playing catch with a Play-Doh. Pâte à modeler. You have a thought that's born in your head, right? This is where the message starts. It starts in your head with the thought that you want to formulate as a message. You choose words to code this message. You give words, you either write it down or you just say them out loud, or sometimes you just gestures. Yeah? Worldwide, you go in any restaurant, you do this, they know you're asking for the check. This is a communication. So you used a code to translate this idea that's in your head. So it's like you took this Play-Doh, this pâte à modeler, you modeled it into what you think the message should look like. And then you threw it to the receiver. What you need to know is that your receiver, when they catch it, you know, Play-Doh is a bit fragile, malleable, true. So when they catch it, it kind of disfigures the whole figurine that you've made. And that is exactly because you, as a receiver, you interpret, you assume, you judge that there is an intention behind this message, and you interpret it. It doesn't have to sound so negative or pessimistic in that sense. هيدا رح نعطيكم example على اللبناني. وقت يفوت لعندكم your manager, okay? So your manager walks in or your teacher walks in and they tell you, I need the report ASAP. What does ASAP mean? إيه شو يعني? Give me a time measure. So for some people, ASAP is like in 2 minutes. For some others, ASAP is like before the end of the day. For some others, ASAP means before the end of the week. Sometimes we leave room for this assumption, this judgment, this interpretation that is at the root of miscommunications. Very often, this is at the root of this miscommunication. The assumptions in the sender's mind, what they assume you are going to understand, and as a receiver, what you assume or interpret this message to be coming from the sender. If you take your relationship with, well, in your life, you have relationships with your parents, your siblings, your friends, your teachers, people you don't know, okay, in the street, good. Do you talk to these people in the same way? Do you choose the same wording to say exactly the same message? So you found out tomorrow the exam was canceled. And you call your dad to tell him, or your mom to tell her that the exam is canceled. You're probably going to use a tone wordings and a timing and a mode of communication that is going to be different. Sorry? You're going to need some proof. So to show him the actual proof so he believes you. But with your friends, you're probably going to be, yeah, the exam is canceled, and you're texting and emojis and memes and whatever. So you are going, even in the channel of communication, you are going to choose different channels to say exactly the same thing to two different people. So it's not only because there's a difference in gender, but there is differences in the way genders usually, okay? But it's a tendency. Again, this is not a general rule. But even between any kind of human being that you have, two human beings, the nature of the relationship between them does affect the way they communicate. The past experiences they've had, the nature of the relationship, the purpose that they have out of this relationship. And too often, two people in a relationship have different purposes. And this also leads to a lot of issues. So what are the benefits of this positive communication? Obviously, helps you communicate more efficiently, right? To go from throwing a ball in their face to actually playing a game of catch. It helps you face issues with more positivity. And God knows we need more positivity in our lives. Positive communication also helps you get positive outcomes. It's not only about improving or preserving or maintaining the relationship. It also gives you what you want at the end of the day. It gives you the outcome that you were looking for. It also helps you have healthier relationships personally and at work, and gives you a more positive mindset. For those of you who have seen this picture, let others discover it. And for those of you who haven't, what do you see in this picture? So some people saw me first, some people saw you first. Did you all see both? Who did not see it? So I can help them. Okay, so the you is in the middle. Did you see it now? Cool. Okay. Why did some of you see the me and some others see the you? Who's right? Both of you are right. Why do you think each one of you saw something different? Depends on your perspective, depends on your brain. What about your brain? So the things that you choose to see, okay? So even in terms of colors, you saw differences. Let's take another example. If I'm showing you these blue lines, what do you see? So I have people saying B. What do you also see? Come on, get creative. Scratch your brain a little bit. You can see a face? Eyes? Who sees a 13? For those who said eyes and eyebrows, who saw sunglasses? Why is it that our brains constantly look for ways of giving meaning to what we see? None of you told me I see two straight lines and two curves. None of you. All of you tried to give me a meaning. All of you tried to combine this information to give me an outcome. A B, a 13, eyes, a smiley face. That's because this is how our brain functions. It takes information from the environment, it processes them just like any computer would do, and then it spits out an outcome, or a judgment, or a solution, or a result. This is how your brain functions. And this is why, again, related back to the relationships that we're talking about. Every time something happens in your life, every time someone tells you something, the same process happens in your brain. You take the information. أكيد قال لي هيك لأنه ما هي امبارح وقت قالت لي هيك أنا عرفت إنه, right? This is what we constantly do, and we need to be mindful about this. Let's do an exercise now to just kind of re-energize. I'm going to show you a text, and I would like you to count as fast as you can the number of F that you see in this text. The letter F. Okay, I'll show you the text. The fastest one who gets it right wins. Go. How many F? يلي بيخلص يعد يقول على صوت عالي. How many F? 3, 4, 4, 5, 4, 5. شو؟ قرروا. 6. كنا ب 3 صرنا ب 6. شو؟ Which is it?
4.
I'm going to ask my child, my young son, my oldest son, Luca, can you please count the number of F, la lettre F? Tu peux compter combien de F il y a dans tout le paragraphe? There are 6 F. 6. 6. Why did your brain, you are university students, I assume you know how to read, okay? And I assume all of you have enough vision to be able to look at the slide and still read it properly, even from the back of the room. بعد ما شفتوا الستين. Okay. I'll tell you why. The reason why you don't count all of the 6 F, it's because you omit the off, and off. This is why you didn't count all the F. Okay. So this was a little fun exercise. What does it tell me? All of these kind of tricks on perception. So we have a tendency to interpret and analyze rather than look at facts. What else? Yes? So sometimes we want and we try to look at a holistic view instead of looking at one particular event. And we are very good at this when we get into a fight with our loved ones or our parents and we're like, أنت أصلاً دايماً بتعمل هيك وكل مرة وأصلاً ولا مرة, right? We have a tendency of overgeneralizing. This is what we do. Okay. What else have we learned from this exercise? Yes? We are constantly worried about the speed, and the speed sometimes alters our ability to grasp all of the information. Relating back to relationships, our friend is coming in for advice. They come in and they start telling you, I have a problem here, and this happened, and I really don't know what to do, blah, 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 blah. First thing we do is, إيه بس أنا لو كنت محلك, and you start giving advice. You sometimes interrupt the person to start giving them advice. Out of your own goodwill, huh? You have very good intentions and you're trying to help. But because you're too much of in a hurry to help and to support, that you don't take enough time to listen, to take all of the information, to show the other person that you are there for them by just listening. And trust me, sometimes listening is the best support that you can give to your friend. Just sitting there next to them, listening to them, saying, I'm there. I'm here for you. I support you, and I love you no matter what. This is the best support. They don't need your advice. They don't need you to fix their problems or find their solutions. They need you to tell them that you support them and you love them so that they can find their own solutions on their own. So, the next tip for positive communication is to remember that each one of us has his or her own reality. You've all experienced this session. When you walk out of this room and someone asks you, how was the session? Each one of you is going to remember what is relevant to them, what spoke to you, what you think was useful, or what you didn't like. So your realities are going to be different. Each one of you is going to have a different reality from the same scene. So this is what you need to retain about perception. And this is a very important point. Next time you're going to get into a fight or an argument or a tense situation with someone close to you or with someone you're not very close to, but you have to work with every day. And you don't have the choice. You have to maintain this relationship with this person. What you need to know is that you do not all look at things in the same way. So you cannot assume that the other person is experiencing the same thing as you, or has the same emotions as you, or has the same information to make the same judgment as you. And this is why sometimes you can just agree to disagree. You have your perception, I respect it. I have my perception, and you respect it. Don't try to convince me. You give me the facts. If I'm not convinced, you leave me at it. Don't go into sterile conversations. And we have been in very, not even sterile, very aggressive and violent interactions, especially when 2019 started off in October, the whole social unrest that we have been through. I think we've all witnessed the negative communication that has happened between close friends, between siblings, between members of the same family, just because one was not willing to accept that the other has a different point of view or a different opinion. All right, let's take a look at our toolkit. What is it that we can do to improve this positive communication? There's plenty of tools. Usually when I give communication trainings, I can do them over 5 full days. In corporate setting, usually with corporate companies, we give them 3 to 5 days of communication training. I'm trying to squeeze all I can in just 1 hour, okay? There are plenty of ways, approaches, tools, and techniques you can use to start improving your communication and have more positive communication today. Number 1 is using the you attitude. And the you attitude states that if you are communicating for a purpose with someone, you should talk about what is relevant to the other person. You should talk about what's interesting for the other person because this is the only way they're going to listen. If I am the queen of PowerPoints and the queen of public speaking, but I'm talking to you about a topic that, well, doesn't really matter to you or is not relevant to you, you're probably either going to be wandering off, daydreaming. What am I going to have for lunch? I'm hungry. I haven't had lunch yet. What are we doing this weekend? You know, you take a mental vacation. Even if I'm, the best at giving you public speeches. So the topic has to be relevant to you, and the way I deliver the message has to be relevant to you. Practicing active listening, as I told you. So sometimes the best thing you can do to help a relationship is to do some active listening. And I'm going to give you a tip, a very specific tip, for whenever you are in a conflict. So you're in a fight with your loved ones, and these are the regular fights that كل مرة بتتخانقوا على زيت الأشياء. Okay? So next time this happens, I hope it doesn't, but let's face it, it's going to happen. So whenever it is going to happen, instead of responding in your usual manner, try this very simple tip. Try to rephrase what the other person said in an empathetic, of course, and compassionate way. So اللي بفهمه من حديثك انك تزعجت مني لانه قلت لك 1 2 و3. Try this. What the other person is going to feel, number 1, is that you listen to them. And number 2, they're going to get the chance to tell you, well, بتعرفي شو لا زعلت بس من 1 2 و3 ما هيك قصدي. And maybe try to explain further so you would know what went wrong. Try this tip next time you're in a tense situation. Ask questions. You know what coaches do in their lives? You've heard of coaches that do executive coachings for senior managers to support them in their career growth. Yeah? You know about this job? Okay. They get paid, I'm not going to tell you how much, but more than you can possibly imagine for the number of minutes that they spend with their coachees. To do what? They ask them the right questions, and they help them ask the right questions, and they train them on how to ask yourself the right questions so you can actually answer those. Using I statements. When we are in a tense situation, what do we do usually? أنت عملت وأنت سويت, right? With the pointy finger. Try next time to use I statements. When this happened, I felt frustrated because this reminds me of a time where I was put in this or that situation. Try to use I statements. And of course, develop empathy. شو يعني empathy? شو يعني empathy بالعربي؟ تعاطف. تعاطف. Empathy is putting yourself in the other person's shoes to try to imagine what they are feeling so you can know how to deal with them or how to accommodate them in the situation. And the last tips I'm going to give you are related to constructive discussions. Because in a relationship, if you want this relationship to maintain, to preserve, to grow, you have to have constructive discussions. If you are having a discussion just to show them that they're wrong and you're right, this is a failed conversation. This is a conversation that's, if it's not going anywhere, it's going to take you down or take the relationship down, and this is not what you want. So, golden rules of constructive discussions. أول شيء بنحكي مع الشخص المعني. We talk to the concerned person. مش بروح بخبر فلان عن عيلتين all right? Number 2, we coordinate our body language with our words, our gestures, our facial expressions, our eye contact, our smile. It makes a whole difference. We focus on the solution, not the person, not the problem, sorry, on the solution, because we want to know what happened and where it went wrong. But what is more important is what we can do to avoid this problem in the future or to prevent it from happening again. Choose the right time and place. Nobody likes to be criticized in front of everybody else, right? So the principle is you praise in public, and we don't do this enough. We never do this enough. We praise in public. We say in front of all that you've done a great job. But whenever we have constructive criticism, we do it in private. And the last one, and this is something that I have learned from my mother dearest, you set apart the person from their behavior. And this makes the whole difference because you are not judging the identity of the person, you are talking about their behavior. Identities cannot be changed, behavior can be. وَلَإِلَّا, we wouldn't be here today talking and spending all this energy to try to figure out how to improve our behaviors. Set apart the person from their behavior. مش أنت كذاب. أنت كذبت هون. Big difference, trust me. I do that with my kids, and they know. So the last question I want you to ask yourself whenever there is a conflict and whenever you are faced with a difficult situation, ask yourself this question. What is more important to me? Do I want to win the argument or do I want to win the relationship? Because if I do something to break the relationship, trust me, it's going to be really hard to fix it. Really hard. Even if it can be mended somewhere, there will always be scars around that's going to affect it or taint it. So ask yourselves, do you want to win the argument or win the relationship? Thank you.